Hello and welcome to our show. Activism relating to climate change started in the 1990s when major environmental organizations began to have conversation about the climate. The world's attention was drawn to the fact that if we do not take care of the environment in turn will not take care of us. Yes, and that it has very serious consequences on the human race. Climate change, global warming, simply put, means the alteration in the atmospheric temperature, where the Earth gets warmer as a result of emission of gases. And this emission of gases is as a result of human activities. And like I said, it has very serious consequences on the human race. Bringing it home, what is the Nigerian situation? What are we doing to combat the effect of climate change? What are we doing to securing our environment? What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? Today on the show, our emphasis is on the effects of climate change on the environment. My name is Patience Eloy Abba, and this is Weekend Deal, coming to you live from the network service of the NTA. I am glad you've kept a date with us. Our feedback line will soon be on display. Please do join the conversation. We would love to hear from you. Words like increased heat, drought, insect outbreak, increased wildfire, declining water supply, and so many words like the greenhouse effect. These are some of the effects of climate change. That is what we are looking at on today's show. To start our show is a backgrounder that will educate us more on our topic. It is put together by Francis Ogbe. Let's see this.
It is no longer news that the biggest threat facing humanity today is climate change, as is evident from temperature increase, increasing rainfall, drought, desertification, rising sea levels, floods, landslides, radiation, and loss of biodiversity.
Climate change is any change in the climate over a long period of time due to natural variability or due to human-induced activities. For instance, we look at the greenhouse gas emissions. These are heat-trapping gases, but because of what we are doing, it's now too much on the atmosphere. So that's why we are having the temperature is getting warmer, it's getting too hot. And so we are exposed to erosion, we're exposed to flood. In 2011, everybody knows what happened in Nigeria, in Lokoja, for instance. Animals left their natural homes and started entering, alligators and the rest started entering people's homes. And these are just because of what we are doing to the environment. The environment can no longer withstand it, and it's now coming back to us.
Nigeria is endowed with forest resources of diverse species, but the excessive exploitation of these forest resources is a source of concern, as it is a threat to the economic, environmental, and social well-being of Nigerians.
Once the trees are cut down and is not replanted, you already know what that means. The soil where that is, the trees we are taking off, already is exposed. And then the trees that are being cut down, most times are being burnt. So you have bush burning. Sometimes we've seen bushes set on fire before you know it, they enter people's homes. So it's still also as a result of it. And what happens to even the biodiversity? By the time we are felling down trees that would have been good for our health, what happens? We keep looking for importation of drugs and the rest. Meanwhile, we have our traditional trees that would have helped, the economic trees that would have also supported the GDP of the country. We cannot say because of insecurity we start cutting down trees, except the option is when you cut down one tree, plant 10. So before the 10 will grow, you'd have at least seen who is doing things within that environment. Most of the plant and animal species are going into extinction. So even when you talk about people going to hide in the forest and the rest, and then because of them, about 10 people, you endanger the lives of thousands of the plant and animal species that are meant to serve to help address the issue of food security for humans.
Besides deforestation, growing desertification has forced thousands of herdsmen to move to the south and middle belt, leading to clashes with farmers, culminating in death of hundreds of people. Nigeria is the world's 17th biggest emitter of greenhouse gases in 2015, the second highest in Africa after South Africa. However, the government has pledged to reduce its greenhouse gas emissions by 20% by 2030.
When we talk about the greenhouse gases, there are three main ones. We have the methane. Methane you found out mostly in the agri sector, where you have cattle. For instance, those that rear cow. When you see the cow dung and the rest, the amount of gas that is emitted from it, now imagine it piling up. Then you look at the nitrous oxide. That one, you're looking at nitrogen fertilizers that people use. All these inorganic fertilizers, number one, they even have effects on the bodies of the people, because most times people apply them without actually cleaning themselves well, and they put their hands and use it to eat. Cancer, see the high rate of cancer that we have. Then we have carbon dioxide. This is where the fossil fuels are. The oil and gas sector is there. We have you have the coal aspect of it. So you look at the petroleum pollution. Most times in the south, you keep hearing how Shell and some of these companies are violating the rights of the communities, either because chemicals from their companies are entering the stream, the rivers where this community fetches water, and these people depend, on these things. Look at the automobiles, the vehicular emissions. How many cars have passed this road? Who is taking note on the emissions? They are also exposing themselves to cancer. They're exposing themselves to noise pollution. Sometimes some of them are even deaf. They lose their hearing. Some lose their sight.
Due to the negative impact of climate change, there is need for adaptive measures to minimize the impact, since we cannot wish it away.
One of the things we need to do is that environmental education. If you're not using water, turn it off. Even if you're brushing, only open it when you want to brush. Use the energy-saving appliances in the house. Let's find a way to reduce. Even if people need to use generator for now as a short-term thing, instead of having 10 generators in a place, they can contribute money and get something bigger or get inverter, so that way the emissions level is reduced. We need to learn to plant trees.
Our focus on Weekend Deal today will be on climate change, challenges and probable solutions.
Climate change matters arising. Like I said in the beginning of the show, our feedback line is on display. Would love you to join this conversation, this very important conversation. Now, trees are planted for beautification, for the protection of the environment, for aesthetic value. But what's the most important function of trees is the fact that they clean the environment, take away the carbon dioxide, and give us fresh oxygen to inhale. Now, what happens when we begin to fell trees? Okay, let me just take us back a little bit. You remember during the lockdown when everybody was at home and cars were all parked at home, the environment was fresher and more beautiful. Why? Because there was no emission of this carbon dioxide gases, and the trees cleaned what was there before, so we had very fresh environment. That just tells you that trees keep us healthy. Now, back to my question. What happens when we begin to fell trees? NTA Ibadan has put together this very beautiful feature on the felling of trees in Oyo State.
Trees play a vital role in the fight against climate change. Earth's forests and soil absorb about 30% of atmospheric carbon emissions, potentially through forest productivity and deforestation. While deforestation has occurred throughout human history, the practice has increased dramatically in the past 50 years. As deforestation has ramped up, Earth's climate has changed significantly.
Our plants, they need us for the CO2 that we don't need. All right? They use that to produce their own food during photosynthesis. While their own byproduct is useful for us. It's oxygen. We're taking oxygen. All right? So now, apart from the idea of using these big trees and plants and everything to control erosion, which is just normal, all right, we cannot help their usefulness in terms of climate change, because they are absorbing the carbon dioxide from the earth, is helping the earth budget, the heat budget of the earth to reduce, because there will not be much availability of what? Carbon dioxide.
Trees, when we have enough trees, we have enough oxygen and great shade. But since many people are now falling trees, there is development in our society now that most forests is no more there again, but they have fed the street and built houses. Therefore, the effect is that we don't have enough shade, we don't have enough oxygen, and that affects the climate because of the temperature. We have more high temperature now because there is no tree to create enough oxygen and cool environment.
The dangers posed by cutting down of trees, regardless of the impact on the environment, are enormous. If left unabated, contributed largely to flooding in most parts of Oyo State. What is the federal, state, and local governments doing in addressing these challenges, along with relevant agencies of government saddled with this task?
He has directed every one of the local government chairman to make sure that we try to plant trees within our local government. But you know one thing, this local government is an urban area, which is very difficult to get land where you plant trees. But we are trying as much as possible to make sure that all the side of the rivers, we make sure we plant trees one by one, because we know the effect of the trees on flooding, because these trees that will be holding the soil together, so that will not allow the flowing of the river of the water to overbank, to move out of their channel.
It is, however, agreed that in order to combat challenges posed by climate change as a result of felling of trees, government has to implement and enforce existing laws against falling of trees.
Honestly, we cannot overemphasize the importance of trees to the environment. What trees do for us is big, and we must protect our trees. As a matter of fact, if you fell a tree, plant two, or dare I say, plant three. And now, still on the environment, NTA Port Harcourt has put together another feature on the impact of black soot on the River State environment. Let's see this.
These are some of the human activities culminating in the environmental degradation of the region. Climate change is the prevailing weather condition in a particular period of time. The recent change in the global or regional climate pattern in this part of the world stems from the activities of humans and greenhouse gases released into the air. The problem of gas flaring, oil spillage, and other environmental challenges is not new. However, in recent times, the menace of soot has become worrisome in River State.
Through the natural processes of oil and gas exploration, we have this air pollution, oil spillage, and what have you arising in that process. Similarly, on the other hand, Our people, through our quest for quick money, have also contributed significantly to air pollution or pollution arising from oil and gas activity through our illegal bunkering activities, through our illegal refining activities.
What is the impact of the suit on the environment and humans?
If you fetch water and put inside a white bucket, before it turn to black, all this can cause sickness for our health. So government should take care of the pollution. Pollution is too much. It's because of oil flame, all this flame of oil that is causing all this type of thing. Mostly in this river state.
You wake in the morning, go to your toilet, you will see many black things inside the toilet. Even in the car, you will see different black things in the car.
All the flames of that black soot is circulating everywhere. The children went sometimes in a week, they cough more than 3 times in a week. Sometimes they cough more than 5 times in a week. And every time we continue going to the hospital for the treatment of our children.
The environment has been polluted. And for the fact that the environment has been polluted, your home has been polluted. Take, for example, you will mop your home. Give yourself 30 minutes. Go back to that carpet. Take your leg and do it. You will see a lot of black color in your legs. The way the thing is appearing on the leg, that's the way you are inhaling it, and it's affecting your health.
The change in climatic condition with the persistent occurrence of soot pose grave challenges not only to human health but also to the environment. What then is the way out?
We do not refine crude oil. We do not own any company that does that. We do not control the security agencies that carry out a crude way of destroying the illegal bunkering in the various areas. We have made attempts bringing the concern to the federal government. We have called the security agencies in adopting more refined ways so that it does not jeopardize the health of the people.
We need our government to move, deal with pollution, gas flaring, deal with bushfire, deal with emission from our cars, deal with our generators. And how do you deal with the generators? You provide electricity, clean, reliable, renewable electricity for our people.
Given the threat associated with the effect of the climate change and the rather increasing soot menace on residents of Rivers State, it has become imperative that individuals, stakeholders, and the government redouble their efforts towards tackling these issues.
Oh yes, so indeed, soot in the environment is very dangerous to not just the environment, but to the human beings. And it's our prayer that something is done about it fast. Still on the environment, one very major source of pollution in the environment is generators. Now just imagine an estate of so many people and every single occupant has a generator. Just picture that in your heart. But well, Dayo La has put together this report on the impact of generators on our environment and on our health. Let's see it.
Abuja, the capital city of Nigerian residents, like most Nigerian cities, rely heavily on the use of generators. Sometimes not only as backup for power supply, but as a primary source of power generation. Almost every family or businesses concerned have at least a generating set as a backup plan for power supply, owing to the unreliability of the power from the national grid. Aside the noise pollution to the environment characterized by the use of generators, it also has its health implications.
Initially, it may cause a temporary hearing loss, deafness. After some time, when the nerve endings in the ears have been irreversibly damaged, It causes a permanent hearing loss. So this tends to cause deafness.
There are reported cases of gory tales of fatalities of fumes emanating from generating sets, leading to the untimely death of an entire family. Experts in the health sector have warned that the fumes emanating from generators can be hazardous, hence the need for more diligence with the use of generators.
The air pollution is the one that we seem to see more often because sometimes the generators will exhibit this black color that comes out of their exhaust. It contains a lot of dangerous substances such as carbon monoxide. But if there's a lot of carbon monoxide in a closed environment, it can lead to acute problems such as a person losing consciousness or even causing death in people who inhale the carbon monoxide. It causes carbon monoxide poisoning. And then apart from that, the fumes also contain nitric oxide. And this nitric oxide is one of the things that depletes the ozone layer of the earth and contributes to our global warming and all the problems that we tend to have. In addition, it causes respiratory problems, breathing problems for us. For people that have allergies, makes them to cough, sneeze, have difficulty breathing, and it can even make asthma worse for those who have asthma or predisposed people to having asthma. And in some places, that's also been found to predispose to having cancer of the lungs. Whether we are smokers or non-smoking, the fumes that come out when we inhale it for such a long time can lead to all of these problems.
While the federal and state governments are working assiduously to improve the power situation in the country, there is a need for caution on the use of generators, both at homes and offices. It should be kept at a distance from buildings and inflammable objects to avoid fire. Be kept in an open space for cross ventilation and not in an enclosed environment.
Okay, welcome back to the studio. Okay, joining the conversation now, it's somebody who is passionate about the environment and has dedicated so many years of his life to the environment. He has taught it, he has lived it, and he has done administratively even in that field. Join me in welcoming to the Weekend studio Professor Emmanuel Oladipo, a renowned professor of climatology from ABU Zaria, former Sustainable Development Advisor, today UNDP. Sir, you're welcome to our studios.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning to you, sir. Yeah. So the issue of climate change, a lot of things are happening. It's on the front burner. We see floods here and there, rising water levels in places like Mexico, United States, and so many other coastal areas. What exactly is going on?
Thank you very much. I will try as much as possible to simplify.
Okay.
And there are a lot of complexities there. But the bottom line is to all accept that climate in its own natural state fluctuates. Okay. It moves from one state to the other over a period of time. But what is going on now is that humanity is hastening or accentuating that change of state from one condition to the other. And this we are doing through our development efforts. As humanity continues to grow in knowledge and understanding of the value of the earth that God created, we tend to be using all the available resources within our system to see how we can advance ourselves in many areas. Yeah. And we started as far back as mostly about 200 to 300 years ago when we said we must industrialize. And the process of industrializing, a lot of activities have been going on that are creating the destabilization into the system. The climate system is part of the earth. Without it, we will not be here. And one of the things that makes it very interesting, that we just have to accept it, is that it interacts with everything we do. And what is going on there for now
is that we have made that air above us, which we call the atmosphere, that controls the climatic system, to run crazy. It's running crazy in the sense that sometimes it becomes very warm, another time it becomes fairly cool, another time it becomes very rainy, another time it becomes snow. But let's clarify two things. Okay. If you wake up in the morning and you go outside and say, oh, it is rainy, or it is sunny, or it is cloudy, that is not climate. People should understand that.
Okay, that's, I'll say that
very,
again.
Very, very clear.
Yeah, say that. Yeah.
You wake up in the morning and say, my son, what is happening? They say, Daddy, it is raining. Yes. That is not climate.
That's not climate.
That's not climate. Okay. That's just weather. But if every day over a period of 30 years, that particular day, let's say August, today is August 21. Are we August 21 today?
Yeah, August 3.
Yes. So if you take August 21 of so many years, about 30 years, and it rains every year on August 21, then you can say August 21 is a rainy condition for this climatic environment. Okay. But from day to day, the weather fluctuates. Over a period of time where we take the average condition of a minimum of 30 years, that is when we start talking about the climatic environment of a particular place. Okay. Over the period of so many years now, we are now realizing that because of the way we have interacted with the atmosphere, we are having some serious problem. One report that came out last week, global report, because this is very important for Nigerians to know that we are not dealing with something that you can say you tackle in Nigeria and it will go away. No. It's a global problem. One report that came out shows clearly that we are in what the world, the UN Secretary General called a red zone. A red zone in the sense that we are expecting that for a few more years to come, they don't know how many, we'll be getting high temperature conditions.
But sir, before you go on, let me quickly ask, one of the reasons for global warming or climate change is industrialization.
Exactly.
Nigeria not being industrialized. You would think that, honestly, Professor, I'm just taking it from the ordinary, Nigeria not being industrialized.
Why
we should be spared. We should be spared the effect of global warming and all that.
But you see, when God created the earth, God didn't create Nigeria, didn't create Ghana, didn't create UK. It's we that divided ourselves into those countries. God created the earth and put a shield of air over it. That shield of air that you look at in this, you call it sky or space, is the atmosphere. That one you look at up there, God put some gases in them, like carbon dioxide, which everybody knows about. And one of the easiest way to know about carbon dioxide, when you put your generator on, carbon monoxide comes out of it. It reacts with oxygen in the air to become carbon dioxide and all the rest. It creates methane. It creates nitrous oxide. All these gases are there. A very peculiar behavior of these gases is that when the sun's energy is coming down, they allow that energy to reach the Earth's surface, to warm us up. And it is the heat that comes from the earth that we call the temperature, not the one directly from the sun.
It hits the earth.
It hits the earth, warms the earth,
and
then it's like boiling water. When you boil water, the steam must come out. So when the land surface warms up, it now radiates its own energy. We will not see it, but we feel it. It's the feeling that we call temperature. That's why they put something by your body to say they want to sense your temperature. Now, in the process of warming the earth, these gases, this energy from the sun, will be transformed. You see, when you heat water, it's not the same energy like the gas that is coming out now. It's becoming like a steam. So it will be transformed into another form of energy, which is easier for these gases to absorb. So the gases now become like a soft paper, and the energy coming will be absorbed. Much of it will be absorbed. What does that mean? It means God has created it in such a way that it will not allow much of this energy that hits the Earth's surface to go back. If the energy that hits the Earth's surface completely goes back completely, the Earth will be very cold. In fact, the temperature of the Earth will be like about minus 18 degrees centigrade. It will be too cold for us to live. So those gases help us, and they behave what they call in the greenhouse manner.
The greenhouse effect.
And that's why we call them greenhouse gases. But they are not the problem. If they are not there, our Earth will be too cold. But they are there now, they keep warming. The problem is us. God has created, God is a wonderful scientist. And he has created the proportion of what those gases should be. We, in the process of industrialization, we started heating, using all the coal and energy, creating so much gases to go into the atmosphere. Therefore, although Nigeria may not be generating,
yes,
once those gases reach the atmosphere, they don't know that they are not in Nigeria or Britain. They create the whole system and generate the changes in the general circulation system. You see, the world, the Earth. I hope people know that the sun never sets.
It's the Earth that revolves around it. Interesting.
As it is setting, as we are now in the daylight, Australia is about 7 p.m. The sun will be setting in Australia, but it's not with us. By the time it's about 7 with us here, America will be receiving. So the sun never sets.
Yes, never sets.
So therefore, that system keeps on warming. And as soon as we keep on pumping these gases, they keep on absorbing. And after some time, I think they're not telling us, I've had enough. I will show you what I am. By making you warm, by creating flood in some places, by creating fire in other places. So although Nigeria may not be emitting much of these gases, the atmosphere will be responding as a system. Which
regardless of where you are.
Regardless of where we are. Wow. And so we just have to, and that's why one of the good things that I think climate change is one of the issues that has brought the whole world together in a common understanding that there's a challenge. We don't have the same capacity. Some developed countries have better capacity to respond to this challenge than us. But all of us agree that this challenge is a common challenge to the whole world, whether you are in Nigeria, whether you are in America or not. And that's what led to the whole world agreeing in December 2015 to what you call the Paris Agreement, that we must address the issues globally. We must address the issues with different...
Okay, given where you are.
Given our different capacities.
Capacities, okay. We are in Nigeria. What can we do? What can we do?
All right.
Yeah.
I think you raised the issue very well. We are not emitting, but we are suffering.
We are suffering.
And what does that mean? I think the bottom line is Nigerians must accept that we are dealing with an issue that we cannot stop. Yeah, even if the whole world agrees not to emit more gas anymore, what is already in the atmosphere will continue to pamper us with a lot of adverse effects. Flood, drought, fire, whatever you want to say. So the bottom line is that we cannot stop climate change. But because we are not emitting, that does mean we must hold our hands. We must be ready that can we build our capacity to try to adapt as much as possible to it. One, I think it is fully hardy for any Nigerian to be waiting for real-time predictions to say there will be flood. If I were a Nigerian living near a river, near a floodplain, near a wetland, whether the NIMET or hydrological services come out or not, which they will do, and they are doing very well, I will first of all agree that as soon as it's around June in the south, there is going to be flood. If it doesn't flood, I'm lucky. But let me prepare for it.
Be proactive.
Very proactive. As a government, I will agree that it will be flood in Lagos every year. Therefore, what do? From the month of February, March, clear all the canals, clear all the drainages, so that the amount of water that can go through them will increase, so that even when there be flood, it will be minimal. If I were in the north, in the month of July and August, I'll be ready. That whether they predict or not, many parts of my state will be flooded. What do I do? Then if it's not flooding, then maybe at the beginning, because what is telling us now is that the rainfall may be such that the beginning may be dry and not the rest. I prepare. So let us be prepared that it is either we have flood, or we have drought, or we have fire in many places, so that it will not catch us unaware anymore. Okay. But to be waiting every year until floods and then we run helter-skelter, it doesn't make any sense. So that's the only way we can adapt to climate change. 2, in our homes, even though we are not contributing much, whatever little reductions we can do. Okay. I give people example. I say, if you have your husband tells you, I need a cup of tea, and you put a whole kettle of water for a cup of tea, the amount of gas you are burning or the amount of firewood you are going to use is a lot of energy. If it needs a cup of tea, put 2 cups of water in the kettle. It will burn faster. You use less energy, and thereby you are contributing to reducing the amount of gas.
So things like adjustments, things like
we just have to.
The number of
in Nigeria, we have to find out: should I be taking my car everywhere I'm going? Should my wife take a different car while I'm taking one? Use buses. Let government get good buses, good routes, so that when I'm going to my village over a weekend, I can join a bus very comfortably without carrying my car, without carrying too many vehicles on the road. It will save us on road maintenance. It will reduce the amount of gases we are emitting. These are little things you can do that the world can say, oh, we are also contributing to reducing the greenhouse gases, even though we are not contributing much. But at the same time, we use other things to improve our economy in a way and manner that does not generate and make us completely relying on fossil fuel that everybody is trying to run away from.
Okay. Now, still talk a little bit about the Lagos situation, the sand fillings and all that. I mean, just expand a little bit on that, because, like you said, these things happen every year and it's becoming very problematic. Yeah.
I think Lagos has a peculiar case. In those days when we were young, we used to hear about peculiar mess. There used to be one man in Ibadan, I think it was Adelabu, they call it. It's Penkele. We Yoruba people say Penkele mess. But I think it was time to talk about peculiar mess. And I think that's the best way to describe Lagos now. It's unfortunate that a lot of developments in the last 50 years in Lagos took place in areas that we didn't do much about the possible environmental implications and what may happen to them. So what Lagos can do now, I think there's a need to keep on emphasizing to them, get a group of technical people, a group of well-professional people to look at what we have done wrong there and see how we can integrately and comprehensively address the challenges. I don't think the one is saying that you cannot sandfill, but how do you sandfill? Which area do you sandfill? How do you take care of those areas that will suffer from the effect of sandfilling? And so that some coastal areas will not be completely wiped out, while others are going to be completely flooded. But again, I think government has to accept that it's beyond Lagos.
It's beyond Lagos.
It requires the federal government bringing out all the coastal states to work together in what we call integrated coastal zone management. That will look at all the landscape, all the way from Port Harcourt, Calabar, all the way to Lagos, to Delta, Edo, Ogun, Ondo, and Lagos, and see how we can manage the coastal area in such a way, sharing experiences from other countries like Netherlands and that have been able to cope a little bit, not completely. They suffered this year, but at least for the past 1,000 years, they've been living in places that are mostly below sea level, and they've been succeeding. But it requires a comprehensive approach, so that even whatever development that is going on in Lagos should be situated with possibility that what happens if we alter the total coastal zone of Lagos so much. What are the implications for other states? And what is even the implication for Lagos itself? And do we have the capacity to cope with possible consequences that may come from what we're doing. I think that's what Lagos need to do.
Interesting. I'm also thinking, I'm a bit confused here as an honorary Nigerian.
Yeah.
In some countries, we have wildfires, and then we're talking about floods in Nigeria. The effects of climate change, how does it work where some people are experiencing wildfires and other people are experiencing flooding and all that?
All right.
I just want a little clarification.
It's an interesting, it's a bit difficult to explain for many people.
Okay.
All right. But the first thing we do, we must understand that this climate we are talking about has seasonality. We know it in Nigeria. If it rains many parts of Nigeria in January, we will cry that something is wrong. So most months of January to March, in many parts of Nigeria, no rain. December, no rain. So the same thing, we call our own wet and dry season in Nigeria. But other countries call theirs winter and summer. Many parts of where there's fire now is what they call summer drought.
Summer drought.
And during their own summer, it is very dry. It doesn't rain. Now, the climate change factor is that the high temperature conditions that are emanating as a sort of global warming is making the trees and the shrubs more tense, more exposed. So any little fire, because it's already dry, and then high temperature conditions coupled with winds will be blowing fire in those areas. On the other hand, the same high temperature in some areas where it normally rains during summer has a lot of potential to take in a lot of water and produce rain, heavy rain, in those areas where it normally rains during the summer. And that's why, whether we like it or even Turkey, that suffer from fire 2-3 days ago started having flood again in some areas. So we must understand that what we call the climate of crisis of climate now is in the world, and it's going to continue to be chaotic. There are many little solar things that can help somebody for lighting. If you're not looking for any major freezer and all the rest, with 1 or 2 solar panels, you can have light in your house throughout the whole day, throughout the whole night. So, but with government incentives, encouraging people to have this in their homes so that the use of generators will be reduced, I think this is what we need to do. When you go to some of these malls in Abuja, you cannot stand the noise, number one. You have to be screaming above everybody to even hear the price of whatever I want to buy. So can you imagine somebody staying for about 12 hours in that noise and breathing in carbon monoxide? Even there are now reports to show that even when there's a traffic clog, some of the road safety guys or the road, what do we call them, those people controlling traffic, they are inhaling a lot of carbon monoxide. That they should even be checking them to see whether they're being poisoned gradually. These are some of the things. So this is very dangerous, and we should by now try as much as government should try by as much as possible. We cannot eliminate generators completely, but at least let us reduce it for so many small businesses that can afford.
Let's say a mall having a central generator system.
Or if they can't afford it, every little shop buy a solar panel that will just give you enough energy to be able to see what you want to sell. I think those are some of the things that we can do. And these things are becoming cheaper. And they will create jobs, because the more we buy, the more people will work, the more the environment will be cleaner, and the more we'll be able to really live longer. A lot of sudden deaths that are happening in the society, some of them can be attributed to some of this inhaling of all these gases everywhere we go, pollution of the environment and all the rest. I think we need to change a little bit more.
Wow, it's a whole lot. Okay, we have some response from viewers. People are writing in. Somebody says, I'm Sherifat from Lugbe, Abuja. This is the first time I really understood climate change discussions. May Almighty God bless Professor. He has so simplified the process for the layman like me to understand. Hope Nigerians will listen to the piece of advice given by him so that we can be saved for the consequences. Prof is a teacher of teachers.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so we have another one here. It says, The major cause of climatic changes on Earth is a result of the ozone layer depletion from human activities. Nothing can be done to change it. It is ordained by God. This is from Reverend Udo.
No, can I make a comment on that one?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I think this is one of the areas where I tend to disagree with colleagues. There's a mix-up between ozone layer depletion and climate change. The ozone layer was created by God.
Okay.
To do one thing.
Okay.
To absorb some extremely short wave energy from the sun.
Okay.
Which we call ultraviolet rays. So that they do not come straight
to us.
Why? Because they're capable of damaging our skins.
Oh, the ultraviolet rays.
The ultraviolet rays. They fall into the same category of X. When they say ask you to go and do X-ray, it's the ray from the sun they're capturing.
X-rays are...
Yes. People don't understand those things. They are short wavelength of the energy from the sun that we are using to penetrate your skin to see what is going on. So these ultraviolet rays are capable of damaging our skins. But God put that very thin layer on the upper level of the atmosphere to absorb much of it. So very little of it will enter. And the damage to the skin is even more pronounced among white people. And that's why they were very keen on it. Now, this layer, under its natural conditions, fluctuates in depth from time to time, from season to season. But we also found that as a result of the human development, industrial development, particularly you women, all this perfume that you
on our body,
they go back and try to open up the ozone.
Prof, even perfume, Prof, I am worried.
No. Things have changed.
Okay.
So from the 70s and 80s, there was a lot of concern, what they call hydrofluorocarbons, that they're affecting the ozone layer. So it's a different category. And a lot of it done through what they call the Montreal Protocol had managed to help us to see that some of the things we are doing, our refrigerator, when a refrigerator repairer tells you to buy another compressor, and he opens the old compressor, the gases that it releases out are those part of this that contribute to the depletion of the ozone layer. So the depletion of the ozone layer is a minute aspect of climate. It's not a total, so it has. They are very so, but there are changes now, and that's why I find a lot of refrigerators now. They are totally different.
Okay. Hold that thought, Prof. Let's again go back to Lagos. For the impact of sea level rise. It's put together by NTA Lagos. Let's see this, and then we'll continue our discussion.
The issues of climate change and its impact on the environment, its effects on man's activities, as well as those of natural phenomena, especially on coastal cities like Lagos, has been of great concern to the government and residents. Since it is linked with increasing global temperatures, natural environments, human activities, persistent drought, flooding which negatively impacts on the welfare of millions of people, it is therefore no gainsaying that the state government is doing a lot to mitigate the effects of climate change on the livelihood of the people.
Climate change are multiple when it comes to the coastal areas. Again, because of the massive amount of sea ice that is melting, you're getting the seas are rising. The actual volume of water is increased. But because of the heating of the water again is also expanding. And that is also causing it to rise more because it's increasing through the natural thermal expansion that is being aggravated by the heat. And then as if that wasn't bad enough, because you have more heat, you have more energy in the weather system, so you're getting stronger winds. And what used to be a small ocean surge before becomes a big ocean surge. And this ocean surge can cause terrible erosion on the coastline. And as it is, our coastline has already been very badly damaged, and it cannot withstand much more erosion. And if you take away too much of that coastal protection, you now open up the rest of the land, which are especially along the Lekki coast, not so much on Badagry, but very much on the Lekki coast, is what they call mangrove. And this is low-lying area. So if you remove the protective barrier of the coast, the mangrove now becomes totally vulnerable to the incursion of the sea. And believe you me, the amount of damage that it could cause, it will be far, far more than whatever the cost of protecting the coast is.
Ocean surge and coastal erosion are major challenges facing the city of Lagos, especially with human activities such as land reclamation and dredging from the ocean by the government and individuals, bringing to the fore the dangers of such activities, thereby damaging the ecosystem.
Dredging itself is not the problem, but it's when it's being done without following proper regulations. In that way, you cannot manage the effects of dredging. Now, even in protecting the shoreline, it involves dredging when you want to do shoreline protection. You see it. But when you dredge randomly, you are pulling out sand from the water, which is not being replaced subsequently. You see, so the dredging is meant to be highly regulated. And it's not every area that, the dredge operators can operate. So a high amount of sand where we can now say, okay, dredge operators who can operate within this jurisdiction. When that place is dredged and the sand level has gone down, subsequently it affects climate change.
On several occasions, the effects of climate change on the environment is massive, causing multiple damage and even loss of lives. Little wonder it raises enormous concerns at various strata of government.
We need to put in place technology-advanced early warning systems. The 32 states that have experienced flooding in Nigeria over this period ignored those warning systems. They took it for granted. Like they normally say that water must find its level. You see it, but it's to reduce the devastation, reduce the effect, is where we need to be more proactive.
Luckily, we're seeing that the incumbent government are now very, very keen to establish green spaces around the city. And this is very, very important because you get overheating, very, very, very much overheating, and it is not good for the health. When the real dry season comes and the type of heating that we'll get in downtown Lagos is getting worse and worse, we need more trees, more plants so that we can overcome that.
Naturally positioned as a coastal city below sea levels, Lagos is vulnerable to different water sources, and with the expectation of more intense rainfalls, it cannot be overemphasized that drainage mechanisms must always be accorded priority attention to aid the smooth flow of water and thereby avert some of the damaging effects of climate change associated with torrential rainfalls.
We are back to Lagos again, and we were talking about Ikoyi and all that. Before we go to Ikoyi, the Bar Beach. Yeah. You see how destroyed it is with the dredging and reclaiming and all that. Talk about it briefly. Are we doing the right thing? Are we doing the right thing by the Bar Beach?
The challenge one has is that I don't think humanity does the right thing. Hardly does any human being do the right thing in many instances when it comes to working on what God has given. We believe that we have the technology to modify nature. One of the arguments in support of what is happening around the Bar Beach is that the beach was at one time about 10 kilometers inside. That is, how did we allow nature to erode it so much? So why can't we reclaim it? But many of them didn't bother to look at some of the studies that were done as far back as the 60s, in which some of our professors of morphology had written that there's a challenge. Now, what is happening is that if erosion is taking place in the Bar Beach area, the same sand is being deposited elsewhere. It's not that the sea is carrying the sand away. It's taking it from one and take it to
somewhere else. Yeah.
So the first thing that Lagos should have done was, where was it taking it to? And what was responsible for the erosion? Is it the ground that was created in order to deepen the water for the Akpakpa port or things like that? That that the lagoon and the sea where there's a sort of ground there. Those are the things that we should have done to really understand exactly what is happening. But we believe, because other countries have done it in some areas, if technology will help us, fine. But I think what we are witnessing now is there was a sort of disagreement. I think there was a little bit of confusion whether the environmental impact assessment was thoroughly done or not. I'm not sure. I'm not into that because government is always not where you talk about that, because I have not seen it and I don't know much about it. But government told us that it was done, and we believe that it was done.
Okay.
But what are the implications? I think there's a need now to look at what we have done, subject it to thorough theoretical modeling analysis, and that will help us to determine whether we can have better approach or not.
Prof, thank you. You are having too many messages. They are coming in their numbers. Someone says, good morning. I really appreciate Prof's wealth of knowledge on this subject. I heard Prof say there is no end to climate change. It has come to stay due to human activities. So please, what are some of the actions that can be taken by government and individuals to reduce the harsh effects of climate change? Enjoying the program, watching with my mom, Ene from Akodi. Another one says, Prof, you are great. Please, Nigerians should get up and stop the use of generators. This is from Peter Azon Zaria. Prof, thanks for your vivid explanation on climate change. Nigerians, take note. Patrick. Okay. Another one says, good morning, Prof. The ultraviolet ray is not skin friendly, especially for humans. Being that the ozone layer is wearing off gradually. What kind of sunshine do we need? Funke, what kind of sunshine? Funke, if you're a woman, you said something, I'm worried. What kind of sunshine do we need?
The sunshine we need is, I think the development have been trying to do everything. That's why you find in overseas sometimes, you see many women putting on some cream to not allow the ultraviolet ray to penetrate their skin, because the white skins are extremely, and it results in what they call skin cancer in some instances.
Well, thank you so much, Prof. Yes. Thank you so much. We've been speaking with Professor Emmanuel Oladipo, renowned professor of climatology from ABU Zaria, former Sustainable Development Advisor to the UNDP, and he has told us in clear terms what we are up against as far as climate change is concerned, the little changes we can make and what we can do. Well, thank you so much, Professor. We have come to the end of the show, and I want to say thank you so much for staying with us. We'll be back tomorrow, but the topic will be different. Goodbye, and God continue to bless us. God continue to bless Nigeria, and God bless Prof, who stayed with us to the end of the show. Thank you so much. Goodbye.